Hello, everybody. I'm Sean Reynolds from Sportsnet, about to be joined by Ken Weed from the Winnipeg Free Press. Together, we are Kenny and Renny. This is the Kenny and Renny post-game show after a 7th straight victory for the Winnipeg Jets. Shutout by Eric Comrie. Just a tap-out. Just a tap-out game for me. You know, just throwing a guy around the ring, jumping on top of him, throwing him in a sleeper hold, watching him tap out. Say, hey, you could go to sleep or you can tap out. One of the two. Felt like it was a tap out game for me. And I got to say, you know, in years past, if you've been watching this show for a long time, I know there was a time where people thought I was a very critical voice of the Winnipeg Jets. I probably was. And, you know, I know that bothered a lot of people. I would hope that in retrospect, if people looked at it, they look and say that like I was saying what I thought I saw, right? I know people would be like, oh, Renny's always upset when they win. And it's like he's more upset when they win than when they lose. And there would be times where that was the case. And it's because when I would talk about snake charmer and all those kind of things back in the day, it was another way of saying that for the most part, the Jets quite often had a dishonest game, right? They didn't put in an honest effort. They'd win maybe. But, you know, they would not play the right way. They wouldn't be on the right side of the puck. They'd make, you know, terrible mistakes, lazy mistakes, mistakes that they just seem disengaged with, you know, lean on their goaltender, lean on their opportunistic scoring, win a lot of games. In my opinion, for a long time, the Winnipeg Jets, and covering this team, I felt like I was covering one of the most dishonest teams in the league, in the way that they played, in the effort that they gave, in you know what they left on the table for their own potential and what they were capable of. And the true magic of what's happened here in Winnipeg over the last 2.5, 3 years, ever since Rick Bowness took over this team, and then after him, Scott Arniel and his coaching staff. I don't think that there's a team in the entire NHL that plays a more honest game than the Winnipeg Jets. I mean, they are always on the right side of the puck. They are always putting in the required effort. They are always making the right play. They're always making the hard play. Whatever you need to do, that's what they're going to do. If it's about go back to Boston, let's go get revenge, or let's just go win this game. Let's do what we need to do to win this game. The Jets make that coach every single time, they make that selection every single time. And it's not easy to do that. And you can see that in a night like tonight, where they play the Carolina Hurricanes, who are considered to be, along with the Winnipeg Jets, one of the more pressure teams in the NHL that just grind you out. And I didn't think they came anywhere close to hanging with the Winnipeg Jets tonight, if I'm being honest. And the one thing that I thought really stood out to me, a lot of my questions were about, I had questions with Scott Arniel after the game. I thought I saw a really frustrated Carolina Hurricanes team. You know, I took a look at Jackson Blake, and I saw a guy who off the draws would, rather than battle with his guy, he'd kind of get pushed around and then just fall down trying to draw a penalty, rather than just going out and doing what the Winnipeg Jets player he would have been lined up against, who would have just fought to go get the puck, and he would have fought harder, right? I saw Svechnikov get frustrated numerous times. His body language was terrible. I didn't see it out of Stahl. I mean, Stahl, you're going to get, an honest effort out of him all the time. And I didn't see it from guys like Burns and whatever, but there were far too many guys I saw on the Carolina Hurricanes tonight that, this is supposed to be one of the grinding teams in the league. And what I saw was a team that was just not willing to go to the dirty areas or fight in the dirty areas, right? And when I was in the Winnipeg Jets room afterwards, I looked up on the wall, and they've got a bunch of mantras that I think they're just nailing this year. One is 10% better. Everything we do, we're going to do it 10% better this year. This is how we're going to avoid the fate that we had last year. One of the mantras they have on the wall is embrace the hard areas. And would you take a look at the Winnipeg Jets as a team, the likes of, Nino Niederreiter, does he not look happy when he's in the hardest areas of the ice? Mark Scheifele willing to grind along the boards. You get that from your top line. We talk more and more about Cole Perfetti. Cole Perfetti, a player who's, decided to go, he talked about being a prick, but a guy who goes and plays defensively and ground in that area. And now he's starting to add that offensive part to his game. There's just no one who seems to dislike the idea of being in discomfort on this Winnipeg Jets team. I think, again, it's to me the most honest game that I've seen in the NHL. A team that goes out every night and just basically tries to, they used to try to outscore their opponents. It sounds obvious, right? But they used to try to just go out and be opportunistic. And, I thought they fell into that before Christmas. I thought they did that against San Jose, that game before Christmas, and then got caught in that game against the Anaheim Ducks. So I'm not saying they haven't done it at times this year, but for the most part, you tell me of the Winnipeg Jets victories they've had this year, what percentage of those games that they simply won by just outworking the other team on the other side of the ice? I think it's 90% or higher. And that to me is as honest as a game gets when you just say, like, one way or another, yeah, we score a lot. Yeah, we've got a good power play. Yeah, we do all these different kind of things. But for the most part, the Winnipeg Jets just work harder than their opposition, and they make them tap out. They make them submit. And that means that you're the biggest, baddest, toughest guy on the block when you win your games just by winning a battle of attrition and forcing your opposition to tap out. Made no mistake about it, the Carolina Hurricanes gave up on this night and handed the game, didn't hand the game. The Winnipeg Jets had already taken it, but they stopped trying to get it back at some point. That's a massive compliment to the Winnipeg Jets, who took a team who was considered to be one of the better grinding teams in the NHL here tonight, and they just realized that they could not grind with the Winnipeg Jets. And to me, that's why this is a 3-0 victory on this night. That's my take on the whole thing. Time to bring in the man with the best music in the business for his take on the whole thing. Here comes Kenny, folks. Ken, this is an interesting comment here by Bart Oman, who says, so the Jets need what, let's say 9 more wins, 97 points to guarantee punching their ticket to the postseason. That looks like the number to me. I would say 9 wins is a good one. But, I mean, I'm going to do what I did a couple of years ago. The Winnipeg Jets are making the playoffs. This is not a consternation. This is not anything to worry about. The Jets are making the playoffs. You got the Renny guarantee the same way you got it 2 years ago. And I can guarantee I'm not going to be worried about it down the stretch like I was the last time I made the Sean Reynolds guarantee when they almost fell out of the playoffs. I don't see that happening. I don't know how a team could go from playing a game like this where they just do everything right as often as they do and fall off to the degree it would take to put them in that situation, Ken. But to me, I take a look at this game here tonight. We talk about the blueprint. We talk about this. We talk about that. This is just, to me, the Winnipeg Jets getting to a stage now, Ken, where they just look right at all times. Kind of like you look in your Vittorio Rossi gear, of course. You've got the Dawn look going on here. I pulled out an old classic here. I didn't realize, Ken, this tie that I'm wearing, which is a fairly new tie, it actually almost looks like the third logo for the Carolina Hurricanes. The kind of like the flag that's waving in the wind. It's kind of hard to see. That was not intentional. I hope none of the players that I talked to today were thinking that I was subversively. I do have the Hartford Whalers cap. Regardless, it looks like $1 million, so I think I can get away with it on that account. Of course, it does, because I got it down on Vittorio Rossi, down on Corden Avenue. You could do the same. Head on down to Corden Avenue, walk into Vittorio Rossi, loudly proclaim Kenny and Renny sent you. Ask for Frankie and the boys, and they will do you up right. So, Ken, take it away.
Yeah, I think you agree with a lot of what you were saying out of the gate, Sean, for sure. I mean, this was a stifling performance, like the back and forth with you and Scott O'Neill. I wasn't down for it, but I was upstairs writing the game story. But um, you squeezed some good answers out of them, I think, when it comes to how the Jets have embraced the grind and how they used to be one of the teams. I mean, Scott doesn't want to say it; he wasn't here when it was happening, but the Jets used to be one of the teams that, Sean, when it gets hard, they would kind of maybe back off a little bit at times, right? I mean, and they've sort of gone into the aggressor when it comes to that mode, their attack mode, which they also have been very effective on the power play, especially that second unit. So I thought it was a very impressive day, banner day for them on a lot of fronts. I mean, this is four points out of 4 points when it comes to the two of the Eastern Conference powerhouses. I mean, I understand completely that obviously the Florida Panthers are going to be a team to be contending with, and there's some other good teams in the Atlantic Division for sure that will have something to say about it. But Carolina and Washington are, two of the front runners in the Eastern Conference, and the Jets, had a barn burner in Washington on Saturday, and quite frankly, they dominated the majority of the hard areas of the game on this evening. So again, no one's saying this is, plan the parade territory, but what I would say is that these are the kind of games that the Jets need to play against tough opponents. I mean, Carolina's got a bunch of big, strong forwards. They've got a very good defense core. Yet they went to the hard areas and made it hard for their opponent to get to the hard areas in front of their net. Again, they took away the guts of the ice, and although Scott O'Neill said, it's almost impossible to play 60 full minutes of that style, they absolutely frustrated the Carolina Hurricanes at every turn. And Sean, the crazy thing is, I mean, after the first two shifts, it looked like the Carolina Hurricanes were going to pepper the Jets for about 50 shots against, yet they were able to keep them under 30 for the game at 29 in that 29 save shutout for Eric Comrie. Outstanding job by Matt Prefontaine. We know these decisions aren't made unilaterally. Matt and James Cochran in the video room. Obviously, there is contact on the bench, I believe, with Marty Johnston, and that's obviously being relayed to Scott O'Neill. But just an exceptional job by the coaching staff overall, and Matt Prefontaine in particular, for absolutely nailing both of his opportunities. I'll flip you back in a second here.
Yeah, it's okay. Keep doing
Both
it.
of his opportunities to call for the challenge, which, man, I mean, the first one they were quite confident, as Scott O'Neill pointed out afterward. Ballsy challenge on the second, and I love it. In real time, I thought it was a goal. On the replay, it looked pretty apparent that it was not covered by Kochetkov. But that one's one that's, you have to have definitive proof that he didn't push the pad in. And I don't know what you thought, Sean, but I mean, well, I thought that his pad actually kind of went backwards before the puck was jammed in. So it was kind of the opposite of what you would expect. I mean, in real time, I understand why the ref blew it down, but this was a situation and scenario where Kapari just did a great job of getting to the net. He took the pass from Mason Appleton, and great job by Kochetkov to knock the puck in the air, try to intercept it, but Kapari just stuck with it, and that's exactly what you want to do as a player when there's a loose puck around the crease, and he jammed it home for his fifth of the year. I understand the folks that were a little bit reluctant and hesitant and thought that, oh, well, maybe it's not worth the risk, because if Scott O'Neill is wrong or Matt Prefontaine is wrong in that scenario, the Jets are up 2-0, but now they're facing a 6-on-4 power play in all likelihood. So I like that they went for the call, and even the Jets were a little bit fortunate, Sean, that came right at the time of a broadcast timeout. So they had 5 or 6 extra time chances to look at it. But I mean, you could also tell they were confident, and they didn't even wait until the broadcast timeout was over to declare that they were challenging the goal, and they were correct eventually. And yeah, I mean, it was an impressive game on the ice, and obviously off the ice for Matt Prefontaine. And again, I wasn't down there, but I heard the exchange that Scott O'Neill wanted to bring Matt Prefontaine up to the podium with him, and that's a class move, even though Prefontaine declined, we often talk about the importance of the support staff in certain areas and guys keeping players healthy. I mean, Matt Prefontaine's an important part of the coaching staff, even though he's not, the guy that's sitting on the bench. Sitting on the bench, he's doing an important job, in the cubby and making sure things are happening. So again, tip of this, stick tap to Matt Prefontaine and James Cochran and the entire staff for their ability to have an impact on they're having an impact on the game, whether they're making calls or not. But this is a situation where, one goal is taken off the board and the other is overturned into a goal. And, without those calls, could be a completely different game. As Scott O'Neill pointed out, I mean, Carolina is a team that once they score first, they're a tough team to beat, right? So impressive job for there. And it's interesting because the first angle, Sean, of the Rantanen goal, it looked pretty benign. It looked like he might have tapped the skate of Comrie, but I didn't see it impact his ability to stay set. But when you see the back angle, he clearly pushed his stick, and that kind of caused Comrie to lean a little bit. So, and again, like I said, on the second one, I thought it was, obvious as maybe a little bit of a too strong of a take, but I thought that they were going to be successful on that second challenge as well. And I mean, it's super interesting, the technology. I also thought in real time that Nemestikov didn't kick it, but the back angle clearly shows his left foot dragging. And again, I think it's more of a natural reaction than a kick. But I think, based on the way the ruling is, I mean, I think that's got to be taken off the board, and it was. So, interesting game on a lot of fronts. So,
I had absolutely no problem with that one. That was an obvious kick to me, I thought, anyway.
Well, you were in that end. Did you think it in real time that it was a kick?
Yes, I did.
Oh, really?
But John Lou didn't. John Lou and I were sitting together.
I thought he dragged the leg pretty well, but
feel that it was. I mean, I don't know. You know me.
The back angle looked obvious.
I hate that rule. Like, unless it's just a redirection in off of a skate, if you are in any way directing the puck towards the net purposely with your feet, I think that should be the rule. But I don't know. To me, I mean, God, you remember there was one a number of years ago when Nate, what was his last name? Nate. They brought him in for the fourth line.
Nate Thompson,
and the puck was going wide of the net, and he just threw his foot straight out and kicked it into the net, and it was allowed. And I was just like, I don't understand this rule.
It was a reverse kicking motion. It's funny. I mean, this is one time where we disagree. I know that the primary thing is safety. I actually think in a league that's trying to score more, I think pucks off the skate should all count unless it's
sure. Like one or the other. It's just like if you're going to say you can't kick pucks into the net and then a goal
too much gray area
stands, to me that would be just absolutely ridiculous. Gotcha. I had no problem with that. I thought they got the call right on everything there. In the end, what the issue was they had said that Kupari had created goaltender interference before the puck got to the side of the net. It wasn't that it was covered up. They had originally called it saying that when he went into the net, he made contact before the puck actually got there and put the goaltender in a position where he couldn't play the puck at that stage. So that's what Scott O'Neill had said. When he had that explanation, they looked at the replay and saw that there was no way that Kupari arrived there before the puck did. And so they knew that they were going to get that one. Matty Prefontaine makes it look easy. What did you think about the comments made by Eric Comrie just on Matty Prefontaine and how he's viewed around the league?
Yeah, I mean, for those who didn't tune in or may have missed it, I mean, Eric Comrie called him flat out the Connor McDavid of video coaches, and I mean, you can't get a higher compliment, right? I mean, this is as high a compliment as you can toss out in terms of, we talk about flowers all the time, Sean. I mean, this is Valentine's Day coming up later this month. This is full 5 dozen red roses showing up at the front door here. I mean, it's an impressive commentary. And again, we know Eric Comrie, is occasionally, he's always pumping up those around him. But I mean, he made it clear that people around the league view him, Matt Prefontaine, very highly in terms of the job that he does. And his ability to, do his job at an exceptional level. And yeah, I mean, he joked about an extension and things like that with a raise. But what he wasn't joking about is the job that Matt does. Matt, I believe, and the Jets are 6 for 7 this year, and I think the only one that they didn't get right. Don't have this; these aren't stats I have in front of me, but from what I recall, I think the only one that they got wrong was the one that caused Connor Hellebuck to flip out about not knowing what goalie interference is. Isn't that the only one that they've got wrong this year?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. You got it.
it's just like I said, you have a little bit better context than me being down there. But I mean, from what I heard, I listened to the interview. It sounded quite, pretty clear how the Jets feel about Matt Prefontaine and his abilities. And again, we talk about people that grind to get to the top. I mean, Matt worked in the American League with Rockford and made his way to the NHL, and he's done an exceptional job since he arrived here.
Well, hey, let's do this right now. Let's trigger this right now. Bobby B says the Johnson Group Got You Covered award goes to the Jets video coach, Matty Prefontaine. I think, let's just go with it. Let's go with that. There's no argument there. And hey, do you run a small business in Canada? Look to Canada's #1 employee benefits plan, Chambers plan to give you what's that?
Sorry.
Sorry. Let's start that again. Do you run a small business in Canada? Look to Canada's #1 employee benefits plan, Chambers plan, to give you a competitive edge. Chambers plan is the simple, stable, smart choice for over 30,000 businesses countrywide. Visit chamberplan.ca to learn more. That's the Kenny and Renny OG. It's the Johnson Group Got You Covered play of the game. You know what? I want to get into this. Let's talk about Eric Comrie. You talked about what he was saying post-game afterwards, but clearly the Winnipeg Jets as an organization, maybe not organization, as a roster, has gotten the Pristine Roofing wake-up call when it comes to offering him some run support finally, so that he can turn some of these games into victories. You know what that means. Time to give North End Rick the Pristine Roofing wake-up call at 204-981-6289. He's the guy you want down at your place for any of your roofing, siding, and exterior needs. You can also call Pristine Roofing as well at 204-237-7663 to give your place the Pristine Roofing wake-up call. You will be happy that you did. We talked about this a little bit on the last show. I love that when he came out after losing 8 straight, which was just like, honestly, Ken, the way that it was going, it was unfathomable. It was unfathomable. He could be playing the way he was. The Jets could be playing the way they were, and it just line up almost every time that he played that he wouldn't get any of that run support. Now he's got 2 straight victories. After the last one, he pulled a page out of the old Connor Hellebuck book where he said, I liked my game that whole time. I didn't really have a problem with that. Nice to see him getting the results now. He walks out and he gets a shutout in this one. You could see right as that game wound down, Dylan DeMello was right there. You could see it meant a ton to Comrie to get that. It meant a ton to the Jets, I think, to get that for him. But just your thoughts on Comrie and now, like, kind of getting what I think for the most part, from what we've seen from him and how he's played, getting what we have felt for a long time that he's deserved, and that's these kind of results.
Yeah, for sure, Sean. I mean, this is why when folks were screaming from the rooftops that the Jets needed to address the backup goalie position, that we tried to get them to calm down and, take a deep breath here and sort of just realize what is happening. And we've been saying all year long. And again, we're saying this because the Jets literally had the best backup in the NHL last year and had the numbers to prove it in Laurent Brossoit, right? So, Sean, for those folks who were flipping out about Eric Comrie, Comrie now is up to 5-7-1. His goals against average, which was above 3 at one point, is down steadily to a crisp 258, and that save percentage that was previously around 900, which is the league average, then was 904, is now up to 912, 12 points above league average goaltending. So Eric Comrie is kind of, he's already bordered on very good. He's not at LB's level just yet, but because the numbers were a little bit skewed early on, Comrie has now knocked down the goals against by almost half a goal, and he's bumped up the save percentage to 912, which again, 12 points above the league average. League average being middle of the road NHL goaltender. Eric Comrie is well above that right now. So again, we know he's going to need, 7 or 8 or 9 starts, whatever they end up getting him to. I think it's going to be around 20, could be to 22. We'll see. But Eric Comrie has been doing mostly the same thing all year long. The only difference is that now he's had 8 goals scored in the last 2 games, which made his life a lot easier than it was previously when the team was barely scoring a goal and a half per game when he was between the pipes. So again, this is not to say that the team played terrible in front of him. That's not what we're saying. I mean, we know how Scott Arniel reacted on Saturday when, he took exception to a question about, how the team plays in front and went out of his way to say that the team defense has been such a big strength for their team. And, that also happens when Eric Comrie is playing, but Comrie's done an awesome job, quite frankly. He needed to elevate his game a little bit, but he was mostly steady. And now he's getting some support, and the results have been there behind him. So, Sean, we've said this before. The Jets have 2 back-to-backs left. So there are 2 automatic starts for Eric Comrie in the last, what is it now, 27 games. But there's also going to be probably, 5 to 7 more starts beyond that. And quite frankly, Sean, if you can play Eric Comrie against one of the best teams in the Eastern Conference and one of the best teams in the NHL, you can play him whenever you need to play him. You're not trying to shelter Eric Comrie because he's shown he's capable of playing against really good teams, and that's a big development for the Jets.
Yeah, he's been great. There's been nothing. It's not a surprise. We knew. Well, we've talked about it on the show before. Having Flats, Wade Flaherty as a coach, that he's very likely to get the very best out of whoever you bring in. Eric Comrie has worked. He works in the dressing room. I mean, that's something else that you probably have to take into account here when it comes to Eric Comrie. Never mind how he plays. It's him in the room. Like, you're talking about a guy who the friendship that he has, even with a guy like, never mind Connor Hellebuck, but a guy like Mark Scheifele, like, this is a good room right now. Like, this is probably the best Winnipeg Jets room we've ever seen before. In the entire time covering this team, Ken, I know that I started in 2014, so you started 3 years earlier than me on this team. Can you think of a Winnipeg Jets room that you thought was as cohesive and right mindset and supportive, but demanding expectations from each other, holding each other to account? Can you think of a better room that you've covered than the one that we're witnessing right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think that this is probably number one. I mean, I would say that 2018 year, the run to the Western Conference Final, the Jets were second in the NHL. I would say that there was a lot of they had plenty of good vibes rolling around. I do think that, I mean, their team, obviously the core has mostly stayed the same, but I would just say that it's just a little bit more of a, again, I would just say winning makes it fun for players to come to the rink. But, so naturally when they won as often as they did in 2017-18, there was a lot of positivity around their team that year. But, again, and we've also talked about it. I mean, Patrick Laine was, fun guy to be around. Brian Little, the conscience of the team. I would say that it was similar. And, Dustin Buffalo, even though he didn't speak a lot in the media, you could tell the way that he kind of kept things loose around the room. But in terms of, overall engagement and, people feeling like they're part of it, I'd say it just, we talked about culture a lot in terms of what the Jets have been building for the last 2.5 years. I mean, you should go into it a little bit too, because you asked Scott about it. I mean, this has not been an overnight deal, and we knew it wouldn't be. We talked about this already in 2018. The Jets went from a team that was not good defensively to one of the best defensive teams in the league, and that's basically been a 7-year process, if you're looking at it with a bigger lens. But the Jets were never this good defensively, in 2017-18, even though their defense core was, had more high-end players and maybe a lot more size. So, I mean, to your point, I mean, I just think that the team is, again, recency bias. We understand we don't want that to fall in, but it just, when you're around the attitude every day, you notice what it's like. So, I would say that it's a very fair statement. And the Jets had to put some work in to get to this point, and now they're kind of reaping the rewards. And the next test will be coming. Their next test will be coming on Friday. But our point is, we'll see the proof if it's in the pudding. Come April, May, and potentially June, and then they'll sort of go from there. But I mean, yeah, I mean, I think that I would say that what you're saying is accurate. I just think that kind of in the moment in 2017-18, I think that they had a lot of positivity around their team, also. But I would also say that, there's more people feel that they have a stronger piece of it and more of a voice, perhaps. But
okay, you nailed it right there, because the ownership of this room and a night
right.
like tonight is the perfect example of that, right? The ownership level in this room, where you've got a guy like Adam Lowry who goes down, and then you've got the trust to put a guy like Kapari in there and take over, and then Kapari gets a goal on a night like tonight and has looked as good as he has. Just the opportunity over and over and over again. That team didn't have that. And so that, I don't know, when I talk about the best room ever, I would say that, yeah, that was a great team back then, right? Of course, in 2017-18. They also, and this is something, the proof is going to be in the pudding, as you had said here. I don't think, I feel like the Jets, and I went on a little rant of why last show. You'll have to check out last show if you want to kind of connect the dots with what I'm saying here. But I'm going to guess that the Jets era of getting to the playoffs, hitting a wall, and then losing out 4 straight is over. I'm going on the record saying it right now. If the Winnipeg Jets lose in the playoffs this year, it's not going to be 4 straight games of what's going on with this team. Why can't they wake up? I think that that's done. And I think that happened in 2018, right? As good as that team was, I still think that now, if we want to say this, I think that's the best team the Winnipeg Jets have ever had. I don't think this team, top to bottom on its roster, is a better team or a better roster than that team was. But I think that this room is far better, and it's because of exactly what you said. There's a piece of ownership for everybody in that room. And there's not, I do think back in those days, there was an inordinate amount of ownership for certain players on that team, and they wanted it that way. I don't feel like it's that way. I don't feel like, Kyle Connor or Connor Hellebuck or Josh Morrissey or Mark Scheifele feel like they're more important to this team than the likes of Alex Iafallo or Cole Perfetti or, Logan Stanley. It really just feels, and we talked about this when Ford scored his first goal, how happy everybody was. Again, to me, these are just all these signs over and over again of a team that is just like everybody. Gary Galley used to say that it was a theory that had put forth by Wayne Gretzky, and that Wayne Gretzky was actually a really great dressing room guy because he believed in compression. And what compression was, he said in Wayne Gretzky's words, was take your highest guy in the room, and any room Wayne Gretzky was in, that was going to be Wayne Gretzky, and then your lowest guy, right? Like the guy who's just about to be sent down to the AHL or maybe just up from the AHL. And he said, the closer those two players feel in value, the better your team is going to be. So if you take 23 guys and this is your worst player and this is your best player, and it looks like this, that's a bad team. But if you take a team and you compress it so that the best guy on the team is here and he's treated this way and this guy is treated that way, you've got compression. You've got everybody kind of feeling like they are the same thing, the same part of something. And I think that's what the Winnipeg Jets have. And I think it's why you've got this, Nino Niederreiter talked about this team and its ability to find ways to win lately. Well, this is the second straight game where the Winnipeg Jets, I know that they won in overtime, but the Winnipeg Jets top line wasn't going out and like ending things with other teams. It's their secondary power play that went out and got it done tonight. And it's Rasmus Kapari who scores the game that puts this one on ice. And time again, why? Because you've got compression on this Winnipeg Jets team. And back to close out the original point that I was making, I think when everyone likes each other, when you've got voices that contribute, the one thing that we probably should give Eric Comrie credit for is Eric Comrie's voice in that room is one that is a welcome voice. It's a beloved voice. You can see in the way our chat room talks about him. The fans love him. The coaches love him. The players love him. His value goes beyond what he does in the net, getting a shutout tonight or a win the other night. And you can see it in the way that, the players stuck by him when he went on that 8-game losing streak. So give him his flowers. We've been talking about giving flowers. There you go. Bobby B says, I think Comrie is great for both 55 and 37. I agree with that 100%, but I go beyond that. I just think that this is another one of these guys who adds to a room, makes it a better place. When Kevin Cheveldayoff tried to remake this team, for the longest time, what he did is he just kept going out and he tried to get good room guys, right? Like Nate Schmidt was all about that. Back in the day, Hendricks was all about that. It's a long time that he was trying to supplement the room and make it like a sunnier, cheerier place. As good as Nate was, as good as Dylan was, can you imagine a guy doing a better job of making a room sunny than Eric Comrie? I don't know that I can. So good to see him back in the win column.
Just quickly to augment what you're saying, and again, he's not only good for those two guys, but I think that the comfort factor, again, the comfort factor was there with Laurent Brossoit as well. But for Mark Scheifele, Sean, we both had conversations like this with Mark. Mark saw a steady stream of his best friends leave town in trades or free agency, right? Trouba, Kopp, Comrie. Comrie was, Scheifele was the officiant at his wedding. So getting him back, I do think that it's sort of helped, keep some of that positive energy around. And Eric's just such a hard worker that people want to do well from, and not just his, close friends. I think Eric Comrie was someone that it would be hard to find an enemy of Comrie at any level of hockey in the National Hockey League or the American Hockey League or the Western Hockey League, based on how he conducts himself. So definitely, it's been a big he's a big vibes guy, if you will, but he's also delivering the on ice performance, and the portion of that is obviously the most important thing. But yeah, he's done a great job of keeping that positive energy around the ice. And again, he's thanking Nino Niederreiter for the extra work that he's giving him on the ice, right? This is it's impressive stuff.
Just to go back to what I'm hoping to make a recurring theme on this show as we try to secure a sponsor for medical corporations, or not corporation, medical supplies or something like that. Sean Reynolds dislocating his shoulder, patting himself on the back. We talked just a couple shows ago, not too long ago, about Neil Pionk, and I'd said we have not talked about the sneaky high level shot that he has. That was on display tonight. I just wanted to get that back out there.
Clap City, baby. Clap City. Let's go.
I got a little selfish here. I also want to get a little selfish here and say this is going to be a Sean's Headband version of the Kenny and Renny Show, because T-Will says you've got to give the people what they want. #headband. You want it, T-Will? You got it. Time to make this a Sean's Headband version of the Kenny and Renny Show. Here we go. Had to call an audible here, Ken. The headband, I missed it for the second show in a row, and I was gonna try and drop the news, and then I was like, you know what?
No.
They make ties for a reason, right? Their neckties are headbands, just in a different spot on the body.
We're having a little tough time here. I didn't leave it behind intentionally, but I lost a power cord at Capital One Arena on Saturday. Today I'm having trouble finding where my glasses are, and
I left a tie down there.
You can't find the headband.
That really nice blue tie. I left a tie down there, so I'm hoping that they'll have it there for. By the way, Ovi scores, so I'm now 12 goals away from heading out of town.
That's good news. You'll be going back there.
Yes. Yeah. Well,
did they find it? Let's hope.
We'll see. We'll see what they can do. Why don't you give a Sweet Lou a shout out before you go on?
Yeah, right on. For folks who have realty needs you'd like to have met, contact our main man, Lou Ferlin at Royal LePage Dynamic Realty, 204-791-9971, or at the office, 204-989-5000. His email is lou@louferlin.ca. That's LOU at LOUFURLAN.ca. Lou Ferlin, excellent realtor, excellent human being, and excellent supporter of this fine community, including our podcast.
All right, in the what's new or what's not so new category, the Winnipeg Jets win this game essentially based on their power play. What's new is that it's the secondary power play unit that kind of takes care of all the business. I thought Scott Arniel gave some really great insight into what he thinks works so well, regardless of which unit is out there. Just kind of take away, Ken, what you thought worked and what you take away from what the coach's comments.
Yeah, I mean, they've got this direct, assertive mentality, right? I mean, Cole Perfetti talked about it after the game on Saturday in Washington, and Scott Arniel was talking about it today. They're just sort of really in attack mode, and that attack mode is something we've heard from the Jets and from Davis Payne and from players on both units ever since the start of the year happened, training camp. And you've talked about it, Sean, and you've laid it out perfectly at the beginning of the year. They look a little bit different in terms of how they attack, but the mentality, the attack mentality, the not, dusting it off along the half wall or, looking for a perfect play, that's not as prevalent as it has been in previous years. And it's been impressive, and it's obviously brought incredible results. And I mean, Sean, we know that when the Oilers went on that crazy run, they almost didn't even have a second power play unit, right? When they had the 30+% efficiency a couple of years ago, they barely had a second unit at all. The Jets, actually, their second unit is pushing the top unit. I mean, the top unit's great, no doubt, and they have scored the bulk of the goals. But the second unit has done a nice job, and it's not just a complimentary sense. They're basically supplying primary scoring on that second power play unit as well. So pretty impressive to see. Obviously, too, I mean, Niederreiter was quick to point it out, but man, what a job by Alex Iafallo dancing around Brent Burns to set up that one-time chance. Wow, just incredible entry, slick hands on the maneuver, and then just a perfect pass for the 1T for Niederreiter. And then on the second one, it's just an awareness, Sean, right? The awareness of Neil Pionk. I mean, Cole Perfetti has a shot blocked by Dmitry Orlov. Pionk pounces on the puck and walks in and, straight clap bomb to the top shelf. I mean, just an incredible job. And again, you talked about that shot a lot, and he's been unleashing it of late, and it's been impressive to watch. Pionk up to 8 goals now. The Jets have 7 players in double digits already. And, they have knocking on the door. They have Pionk, they have Appleton, and even Kapari's up to 5 now. Again, it'll be tough for him to get to 10, but as a guy who is used late in games for empty netters, I mean, it wouldn't be wild to think that Kapari could somehow get 5 goals in 27 games. Now, again, it will be challenging for him to get there, but it's not kind of out of the realm of possibility here. But regardless, the power play has been looking very good. And this is the thing, Sean. The top guys have carried the Jets a lot this year, but they're not carrying them every night. And when those second units and those guys contribute the way that they have, it's made them even more dangerous.
I love the explanation by Scott Arniel on what works so well there. And it's just this incessant push forward, right? Like this nonstop nose for the net. It kind of reminds me, Ken, it felt like it was a little revolutionary in basketball at the time. But when Steve Nash was down with the Phoenix Suns, and they just had that style of play where the other team would score and they'd inbound the ball straight down. And it was like there was not this toss the ball in, slowly bring it up the floor. There was this incessant, nonstop attack mode. You were constantly trying to beat your opposition down the court and score. And it just it brought like the level of play and pace in the NBA up so much at that time. And it was kind of like something they'd never really, or hadn't seen for a long time in the NBA. That's what the Jets are like. Every single move is made with the intent to try and open something up, and that's not always how it goes. You'll watch a lot of other power plays, and let's be honest with ourselves. Watch the Winnipeg Jets power play from the last year and a number of the past years, where people used to talk about the Jets would get the puck and they would pass it around the horn forever. They would just pass the power play away over and over and over again. And there was no direct idea to get it to the front of the net. Well, the way that the Winnipeg Jets handle it now is they pass the puck with the intent that that's going to give them a chance to get the puck to the net right at that moment. And then, they've got that covered. Well, I'm moving it to that guy with the intent to get it to the front of the net. But what I loved about what Scott Arniel said about it was like the mindset of the power play. Alex Iafallo isn't just like he'd said, like Arniel had said, they're not just trying to get in and then set up, right? It's like, we're going to try and score first. If you're not going to stop us from on the rush getting to the front of the net and scoring, then we're going to do that. We're going to go and we're going to score. And that's how they collapse teams in. And that's what allows them to set up. The idea that they're not trying to just gain the zone and set it up, but they're actually trying to push you on your heels and score is what allows the team to get the space that it needs to set up. But if you mess it up, and this, think about it, Ken, it happened just the other night on the Winnipeg Jets. That was against Boston. The power play that when Boston ties the game and then the Jets go and score right away, it's an entry, but they get attacked. They get the puck to Mark Scheifele. It's in the back of the net almost instantly because the mindset of the Jets power play is not, let's get across the blue line and hold up and set this up. It's like, let's go try to score. They stopped us from scoring, but in order to do so, they needed to collapse on their net, and that's created the space now that we have to make their way around. Alex Iafallo follows that mindset, dekes to the inside, sets something up. It's in the back of the net because the Jets are constantly attacking. They're not waiting to set up to start attacking. They're attacking, and that's what allows them to set up so often. Then you've got the blocked shot, and Pionk jumps on it. Pionk's not just like trying to get it and bring it back to the top of the umbrella and then start moving the puck around. It's like, every time you get the puck, if there's an opening, you're attacking the opening. There's so many other teams, Ken, where that shot would have been blocked. The top defenseman would have retrieved it and held on to it and then just tried to set things up all over again. But the Jets just constantly catch other teams unaware because they are of the mindset that they are just going to cram it down your throat at every other turn. That's done the job for the Winnipeg Jets. It's paid off for them, that mindset. It's working. And hey, if you're looking to pay off high interest credit cards or debt, we suggest you go talk to our friends at Cambridge Credit Union about their payoff loan. They can show you how taking out a loan to pay off your debt actually gets you debt free faster, and you can save thousands of dollars. Go to cambrian.mb.ca to book an appointment online. Ken, I thought line 2 looked great again tonight.
Yeah, they sure did. Vladislav Nemestikov again is really buzzing. Cole Perfetti's game is rolling. I think Ehlers, it's interesting to me. I'm noticing him, but he hasn't been as dominant. I mean, he's still being very effective, and this is not a knock on Ehlers. It's just his standard is so high, Sean, that it's been quiet is not the right word. That's an exaggeration, but he hasn't been buzzing around quite as much as normal, but yet the line is really kind of catching fire. And Ehlers is, like, again, when I mean not as effective, it just, there's not as many highlight reel plays, but in a game where Ehlers still has 5 shots on net, 6 shot attempts, and 1 block shot. So again, I think he played a very effective game. I just like that the other 2 guys are really starting to push as well. It's not just what I'm trying to say is there's not just one player driving the line anymore. All 3 players seem to be contributing. They've got their spacing down. Their support is much better. And they're all threats now on that line. And they're all looking to shoot a little bit more. And again, if Perfetti would have had another 2-point game had the Nemestikov not rightly been taken off the board. So I think if you're Cole Perfetti, again, this is another game where the Hurricanes play with a lot of pace. They have a lot of size, and they can kind of skate you into a little bit of a spinning top in the defensive zone at times. Perfetti was effective. The defense core of Carolina is very big. Cole's going to the hard areas again, and this is something he's been doing for a stretch of time. This isn't just a 5-game block. Like, this is stretching down closer to 20-ish or 15, 20 games for me, where he started to get himself closer to the harder areas. And now he's up to 8 points in the last 6 games. So I think that's been important. Vladislav Nemestikov has been doing a nice job of chipping in. And like I said, just to clarify, I mean, I don't think Ehlers is playing poorly. I just think that he has another level to reach. And to me, it's scary that those other 2 guys have raised their levels. And, if Ehlers gets back to that, incredible driving that he was doing earlier, that line could be extremely dangerous. They're already dangerous, but they could be a real handful for teams to go up against. And again, that's a huge development for the Jets, because the top line's going to get a lot of attention. They got a lot of attention today. They got a lot of attention on Saturday, and they're going to get a lot of attention against the New York Islanders on Friday as well in the last game before the break, because the Islanders know, just how dominant they can be when they're on top of their game also. But yeah, full stick taps to the second line for really good elevation of their game for an extended period of time now.
Okay, so I still do believe that the Jets are going to go and they're going to pick up some stuff at the trade deadline here. I'd say this though, Ken. I'm of split minds on this, because right now I think the way that the Winnipeg Jets are playing right now, it is just they are so locked into their style. You can add almost anyone into the lineup, and as long as they had the idea that they were going to come in and try to fit in or try and execute what the Jets are doing, it would work. That said, we talked about this. We talked about the harmony on this team. Is there a danger at this stage, as good as the second line is playing, as good as the fourth? I mean, you still have to add Adam Lowry back into this, and then have guys like what's Kapari going to look like on the fourth line when Adam Lowry comes back on the third line and then goes down, like, with the confidence that he'll have walked away with from this. I know that they're probably going to add on the back end because they're still not really settled in that third pairing. But as much as this team, as much as you're getting from the second line right now, as much as you're getting from the third and fourth, as much as the top line is maybe the best line in hockey, is it dangerous at this stage to tinker and add a big ad like a 2C or something like that, based on the idea that you've got everybody bought into a maximum place right now, and you're taking this team, and this team right now is showing that there is not really another team in the league that can hang with it? Yeah, that's great. If you're the best and you get better, but are you making a risk when you've got everyone playing the way the Winnipeg Jets are right now?
Yeah, I mean, it's a fair point. I mean, but at the same time, I think that if there's an ability to augment the roster with someone that would fit in, and again, you never know for sure that someone's going to fit in, but that's why the whole vetting process is so important, Sean, right? I mean, and we've seen it. Sometimes it works out perfectly. Sometimes it doesn't. So, and it's interesting. I mean, when Vladislav Nemestikov tried to play through whatever injury he was dealing with, his production went off a cliff, but now he's back to going, and he's showing why the Jets have believed he can be a second line center, whether that's in a placeholder role or maybe in a role beyond the trade deadline, right? So it just opens up the options for the Jets, Sean, is what I would say. Our pal Elliot Friedman was mentioning earlier this week, I think it was on 32 Thoughts, that, he thinks the Jets still could use some size and maybe a little bit of length and, a little bit more meanness, but at the same time, they're pretty well positioned here with what they have, but I still think that they're going to look on the third pairing and look for a little bit more physicality, whether that's, like I said, maybe someone like Luke Shen, someone along those lines, but they don't necessarily. Jets are. Let's just put it this way: the Jets are in a position where they don't need to win the deadline by getting the biggest name player. What they do need to do is find someone that can fit with this group and someone that provides a little bit of insulation if there are injuries, and we know there are injuries. Look no further than what happened last year. In a 5-game series, the Jets lost Nemestikov and Brendan Dillon. Previously they have Nikolai Ehlers available to them. Mark Scheifele had a couple of injuries. Josh Morrissey was hurt one year against Vegas, right? So I just think that when you're this close, I think that you still do need to go for it if you are the Jets. That doesn't mean you have to go and get the biggest name player, but it is incumbent on Kevin Cheveldayoff to do everything in his power to help upgrade this roster. We know that that means someone will not be getting as much playing time. But as we've talked about before, when you have guys like Parker Ford that can come up and do a good job, those guys will also be, in that next player up mentality and be ready if something happens in terms of injury or whatever else. But, once Lowry's back, obviously the Jets are in a better position, but now they're, it's a battle between Gustafsson and Kapari for playing time, basically, if everyone is healthy. So your point is well taken. And Sean, we talked about this at the start of the year. For a guy like Vladislav Nemestikov, he was pretty determined to show that, hey, I'm comfortable going down and playing on the fourth line and doing a good job, but I also want you to believe and know that I can handle the job if you stick with me as a player as well. But two of the biggest developments, Sean, in this block of time is Nemestikov getting his offensive production back up and Cole Perfetti getting some offensive reward to go along with the all-around game that was showing improvement. So, again, I think that you can be selective, but I still think that Kevin Cheveldayoff will strike. But again, even with all the research that you do, it's hard to guarantee you're going to get a Paul Stastny outcome rather than one with, again, I'm not knocking Kevin Hayes. I thought it was a smart idea. It just didn't translate into success. So, it'll be super interesting.
Close it out. I wanted to hit this here,
Sorry.
but you hit the buffet in a late way here. That was
It was not intended.
Listen, I think you absolutely nailed it. I think Kevin Cheveldayoff can be picky here because the one thing about this, I think they can go to a situation where they just get exactly what they need and not take any risks. They put themselves in a situation here where they know what they've got works. Someone was saying bring in someone, Nicholas says, bring in someone else that will buy in. And if they don't, press box in the popcorn. That's dangerous because you can't bring in players to embarrass them and just sit them down unless that's a player who's coming in here expecting that. Cole Tate Chris says, I don't think it's dangerous as long as the new recruit knows his place. I mean, I think you learned from Toffoli last year that this can be dangerous. So it is a balance they have to hit. I think the Winnipeg Jets, knowing where they are right now, can be very, very certain, and they don't have to kind of go with what the market has out there. They'll target specific players, and if they can get those players, they'll go with them. If they can't, whatever. I think they'll be confident going with what they have. Ken, Keg save of the game. What do you got?
Yeah, I think it's Comrie on Seth Jarvis, the Winnipegger, in the second period. I think he made some nice saves throughout the game, but that's one that stuck out for me.
Yeah, I'll go with that. And hey, doesn't matter what we think, matters what you think. Share with us your hashtag the Keg Save the Game. You're automatically entered to win a $50 gift certificate usable at any of the 3 fine keg locations here in the city of Winnipeg. Each location finer than the last, and the winner from our last show when it comes to the Keg Save of the Game, that is going to be 1 second here. Retro Dad Gamer, you know what to do. Direct message me at SN Sean Reynolds. Send me your full name, send me an email, and I will send you or have the fine folks at the Keg send you a $50 gift certificate usable at any of the 3 fine Keg locations here in the city of Winnipeg. Each location finer than the last. That brings us to our TCB lamplighter. What do you got, Ken?
Yeah, I mean, tempted to go Clap City as usual, but I got to go Niederreiter. Dancing the dancing Alex Iafallo, augmented by the great quote by Nino Niederreiter saying, I thought he might dance one more time, and he did. Got past Brent Burns, set him up for the one-timer. I'm going to go with that as my lamplighter in the game, even though, again, on the repeatable goals scale, I think all 3 would be qualifying, but going to go with that one.
I always talk about repeatable goals. I know I've said a lot on this show about him and definitely his offensive acumen. So we spent a lot of time talking about Cole Perfetti and what would work for Cole Perfetti. He starts doing that and he starts getting results. This is Rasmus Kupari. This is what Rasmus Kupari has to do. He's got to just go to the net. He's got to crash the net. He's got to put some pucks in. Rasmus Kupari is like maybe at the top of his game, maybe gets to be like a 10-goal-a-year guy or something like that. This is how you do that. This is how you maximize what Rasmus Kupari is capable of, because he's big, he's strong, he's fast. It's tough to keep him from getting to the front of the net. And when you've got that kind of stick-to-itiveness that he showed, you get opportunities like that. You put them in the back of the net. That's my TCB lamplighter, but it doesn't matter what I think or what Ken thinks. Share with us your TCB lamplighter, and you are automatically entered to win a Frosty Delicious 8-pack of Lamplighter Amber Ale, brought to you by our friends at TransCanada Brewing Company. If you can't wait for Kenny and Renny to gift you your 8-pack, head on down to 11290 Kenniston. Join them in their tap room. They've got plenty of 8-packs there of that and blueberry and all the great stuff. And they've got great food and a great atmosphere. You should go check it out, folks. That brings us to our winner of our TCB lamplighter from our last one. That would be Medic 7578. You know what to do. Direct message me at SN Sean Reynolds, Medic 7578. Give me your full name. Give me an email, and I will send you a voucher for a Frosty Delicious 8-pack of Lamplighter Amber Ale, brought to you by our friends at TransCanada Brewing Company. It is the nectar of the gods. Ken, anything to say before we go?
No, sorry. We used it all up at the last buffet stop. Sorry, buddy. I'm good.
No worries. Folks, great job tonight, as usual. Sorry we started a little late, and sorry we got a little confusing with the two shows. Hopefully that worked its way out. Thank you for sticking with us. We appreciate it as always, and we would appreciate, as always, that if you appreciate the conversations happening in this space, I implore you to appreciate our sponsors who fight to keep the conversation going in this space. For us, that's Vittorio Rossi, Cambrian Credit Union, Sweet Lou Furlan, Pristine Roofing, The Keg, the Kenny and Renny OGs in the Johnson Group, and, of course, TransCanada Brewing Company. Thank you to them. Thank you to all of you. One more time to do this before a little bit of a vacation for Kenny and Renny. So we will see you on Friday after the game when the Winnipeg Jets play. I think, Ken, we just had a game between the two best teams in the NHL. This may be a clash between the two hottest teams in the NHL, because the
another win for the
New York Islanders come into this game having won 8 of their last 9. Going to be a gooder. Talk to you later. Bye, gang.